Hey there, Razorback fans. I'm Sydney Lemmerhurt, and today I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce you to two exceptional athletes from the Arkansas Razorbacks softball team. Meet Morgan Leinstock and Rylee Cloud, whose incredible talent and dedication shine both on and off the diamond. But before we dive into their stories, let's take a moment to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Everett Auto Group. They're the driving force behind Buick's See Her Greatness campaign, celebrating the achievements and empowerment of female athletes. With locations in Benton, Bryant, and Rogers, the Everett Auto Group is all about supporting women's sports, and we're so grateful to have them on board. Now, let's jump right in. As your host for today's interviews and a former Razorback gymnast, I'm honored to guide you through the experiences and insights of Morgan and Rylee. Get ready to be inspired as we explore the world of Razorback softball with two remarkable athletes who truly embody the spirit of greatness. It's time to hear their stories and discover what makes them true champions on and off the field. So hi guys, welcome. So could you both start off with telling me a little bit about yourself, some background, and kind of how you got into the sport of softball?
My name is Morgan. I am a kinesiology major. I just recently graduated. I transferred from Southern Miss at 5th year. And I got into softball because growing up I played basketball, but when I first moved to Arizona from different states, I saw a whole bunch of college coaches watching me play, and it just got me super excited. Like, I just knew that I wanted to play softball in the future.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of my same story. A bunch of college coaches watching you get you kind of motivated.
Yes.
What about you?
I'm Rylee. I'm from Midi, Louisiana, small town just north of Lake Charles. I'm a sophomore, and my major is sports management. Kind of the same thing with Morgan. I played basketball and softball my entire life, and I'd probably say 6th or 7th grade I started playing competitive travel softball, and that's when it really sparked for me, like, hey, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, so one question I've asked all of your teammates, so why Arkansas? So clearly you're both not from this state, but Coach Deifel has really done a lot for this program, so why Arkansas?
I chose Arkansas. Well, mine's a different story. I wanted to put myself in the portal to find a school that had ultrasound tech because that's what I wanted to be, but I realized a lot of schools don't have it, and I just couldn't turn down any good opportunities. And Coach Deifel was the only coach that basically FaceTimed me, and just seeing her smile, and I just knew it was the right fit for me.
I love that. I love it.
Mine is more of like a home thing, so being from a very small town, I really didn't want to go to this big city and just be distraught when I get there. Fayetteville, I'd been there a couple times before I committed, and I just found that it was very laid back. It just reminded me a lot of home, so it's kind of like a home away from home.
Yeah. Did you get like that feeling? Like they always say that you get a feeling when you know.
The first time I came here, like immediately I told my parents, I was like, this is where I want to go to college.
That's exactly.
This is where I want to spend my 4 years. It's just like the scenery is beautiful here, the people are amazing, so it was just a great fit for me.
Yep, I did that to my parents in the middle of the bookstore by the dorms. I was like, oh, we're doing it, and I committed that day, so they were very surprised by that one. Can you guys share a pivotal moment from your youth athletic career that influenced your passion for the sport? So was there a certain tournament that you killed it and you're like, oh wow, I think I'm pretty good at this, or anything like that?
I have one. This was my 8th grade year of high school sports, and we could play high school in 7th and 8th grade, so this was my 8th grade year. My team, this is the furthest we've ever made it. We were like looking to go to the semifinals this year, and it's the top of the 7th inning. We're down by like 2 or 3 runs, I think, and this was probably the most special moment like to anyone at my school. I ended up hitting a home run. We ended up winning the game, and that's when I was like, man, like, this sport means so much to me. It means so much to this community.
Yeah, no, it's crazy what one moment can change the trajectory of the rest of your life. So what do you want young Razorback fans to remember about you as they aspire to be you?
I'm very energetic, and I just scream the whole entire game. But I just want them to look at me like I'm a leader, or anyone that anyone can be a leader in their own way, and mine is showing enthusiasm. So I just wanted to show them that that's a way of being a leader also.
Love that.
Yeah, same thing. Just always stay energetic and be a great leader. And Morgan is a perfect example of being a great leader and a great teammate.
I love that. So positive around here. I love it. So women's sports, they're the hot topic right now, especially on social media. Obviously, you guys are coming into your season. Gymnastics is wrapping theirs up. Women's basketball, the most viewed TV thing going on right now. So how do you think social media can be utilized to empower female sports rather than, kind of tear it down like it could do?
So there's so many platforms of social media that younger kids watch nowadays. And so I think female student athletes getting the opportunity to use those profiles to kind of put themselves out there. It's just like really big for the younger generation to be able to watch what these other people are doing and then hopefully kind of pivot towards their parents and be like, hey, like I want to go watch this person. Can we buy tickets to do this? So I just think it's a huge thing for social media to impact the female sports just because we're not as aired as much as the male sports.
And I also think NIL deals are also helpful as well because there's really big players that have big names and they put themselves out there and they have their certain apps where they can communicate with fans, and it's just a great thing to communicate with the younger generation knowing that they can look up to someone.
Yeah, it makes you guys not as intimidating. I feel like growing up, social media wasn't as big as it is today for me. And so if I got to meet one of the college gymnasts, I was like, oh my God, she's going to be so scary. And it's like, now you guys are just becoming normal people who just happen to be really good at your sport. So that's been really fun to watch the growth of that. Kind of on pivoting on that, so what advice would you give to aspiring female athletes that might be discouraged by, the lack of attention? Obviously, softball is a very good one because we have such a big baseball program here, but, you kind of want all eyes on softball. Yeah. So what advice would you give to them?
The thing I have to say is just watch, because the female sporting industry is already just growing so much. I mean, like you said, with the NCAA women's basketball series, all this and that, that's the only thing you can do is just watch, because the female athletes in sports are about to explode.
I love that. I love everything about that. I'm snaps for that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say that women's sports is just as competitive as men's sports.
Yep.
That is showing the women's basketball has a lot more views than men's, and the women's College World Series had more views than men's College World Series, and it's just showing that it's huge for women's sports, and just continue to watch us, and we're fun to watch.
Yeah. And it can be frustrating sometimes too, because I know the big topic was obviously Angel Reese, her doing this, and Caitlin Clark bad mouthing the refs, but because they're a woman, it's such a bigger deal. So I love the just watch. We're just normal athletes. Take away female athlete, we are an athlete. So I love that. Share a standout moment from your athletic career where you felt a profound sense of accomplishment, whether it was because you're coming back from an injury or maybe there was an obstacle that you had to kind of overcome.
So my freshman year of high school, I had torn my ACL playing basketball, and there was this coach that I was playing travel softball for at the time. I was supposed to get moved up to the bigger team, the more watched team, and then he basically told me, he was like, you're not going to be the same player that you were before. With this injury, he's like, I'm not going to pull you up. So I ended up switching travel ball teams to a new organization, and as soon as I came back, I ended up coming back at 6 months in a 9 to 12 month recovery. Came back in 6 months, and I just excelled on the softball field, and I think that's when I really got the big watches from the bigger schools and stuff like that. So that was just a very heart-filling
Do you
moment.
always still have that in the back of your mind? I had a similar situation. I blew out my knee my 8th grade year, and I changed gyms. I'd just gone to a new gym, and I remember my former coach saying oh, she's not gonna, she shouldn't be an inspiration to anyone. She just works hard. She's not that talented. So does that keep in your mind?
Oh yeah, because I have kids from, I wouldn't necessarily say kids, but there's high schoolers that I was friends with that from other schools that are having the same injury and stuff, and they'll text me all the time hey, what did you do? And I'm just I'm an inspiration to those kids just because of how fast I had come back from it.
You don't realize who's watching.
Yeah.
So mine, I was I transferred from a smaller school, and a lot of people look at smaller schools like they're not very good or they're not competitive. Well, my biggest moment is when you beat Mississippi State in Florida in the same year, and we proved that smaller schools can beat bigger schools. So every team is just as competitive. Like, for example, March Madness, Oakland beat whatever they faced. So everybody's equal.
No, I love that. There's always a little chip on your shoulder. Okay, so moving on to a couple fun questions. Kind of talked to you about before we got on video. Are you superstitious?
Not superstitious.
Yeah, so do you have like any crazy rituals that you have to do before you pitch?
Yes. So I like to put my socks left on right, and just everything from left to right has to be the same. And then I wear these little bracelets like Cole's Crew and some other bracelets just for good luck. And then I always have to have my hair in a braid and some style with it. And I have to scrape the mound before I pitch, even though it's super clean. So, yeah, that's it.
That is awesome. Pitchers are normally pretty superstitious. I wasn't in softball, and I was superstitious, so I like hearing about what other people have to do. Are you superstitious?
I don't think I am.
No? Do you have any like rituals or anything that you have to do, though, that might not be like superstitious, but it's like, hey, I say these 3 things to me before I'm about to go at bat or whatever?
No, it's pretty empty-minded up there for the most part.
Hey, that's not a bad thing.
I would just say I usually either drink a coffee or a Red Bull or both before a game day.
Both?
Sometimes.
Girl.
I'm frisky.
Girl. Well, maybe cut that down a little bit, but that's not a bad thing. Okay, final 2 questions. Who was the first female athlete that you looked up to? So it didn't have to be softball, but if it is, who was your first female athlete?
Mine is Jenny Finch. So I moved to Arizona, and my very first softball camp was at the University of Arizona, and there was just so many pictures and awards from Jenny Finch that when she played there. I didn't get to watch her play because she was older and I was too young. But just looking at her stuff, I was like, I want to be this woman. And I watched her play on some videos I watched. She was so competitive. I just wanted to be like her.
That's awesome. You're not the first one to say Jenny today.
That's funny because I only live like an hour and 20 minutes from where Jenny Finch
lives.
That's
exactly what Nyjah said too. She was like, I know her, so yeah.
You should come down to Louisiana. You can meet her.
There we go. We're going to have a bunch of people meeting her after this.
But mine was, I kind of fell into the not watching women's sports when I was younger. I had 2 older brothers. They loved the MLB, NBA, stuff like that. So I loved watching all that. So the only really women's sports I ever watched was my high school basketball team, which we still only have high school softball and high school basketball at my school.
Wow.
So
small school.
Yeah, very small. So I remember I was probably coming up into middle school, they had won 8 state championships in a row. And I was like, wow, I want that to be me one day. Like, that was just really
awesome.
It was really cool to see, like, these girls come from a little town in nowhere and go and make it all the way to state and win 8 times in a row. And then it was good to be a part of that once I was old enough.
That's really cool to have like an inspiration so close to home. I love that. Well, that is a wrap for today's episode. I want to extend a massive thank you to our phenomenal athletes who joined us today. Your stories are the heart and soul of our podcast, and your greatness truly shines through with every word. I also want to express my gratitude to the Everett Auto Group for continuing to promote the See Her Greatness campaign. With locations in Benton, Bryan, and Rogers, they're not just in the business of selling cars. They're champions of celebrating female excellence in sports. To my listeners, I can't thank you enough for tuning in and being a part of this empowering journey. Remember, you can catch up on all of our episodes and stay connected with the latest from Everett's See Her Greatness campaign by following us on social media. Until next time, keep believing in your greatness, keep striving for your dreams, and keep celebrating the incredible achievements of women in sports. This is Sydney Lemmerhurt signing off.